everyone. Welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and the finale of Rachel Rising. We're doing another indie show tonight, and we are talking the final volume of Rachel Rising with my man, Unruly Simeon. What is going on? How are you, sir?
Terry Moore had a sketch sale.
I saw it
Saturday.
Yeah, I saw
and it. By the time I knew what time it started, I was moving stuff into buildings with a lull. And by the time I realized that it was 11:40, and the 3 or 4 I really wanted were long gone.
Yeah, I saw it. I actually got on there, and the one I considered was still there, but I really couldn't afford to pull the trigger at the moment, so I didn't. But
I wanted that one of Zoe with the giant axe across.
Oh, I bet you did. Yeah, I bet you did. For sure. So we have my man GT Key was in here tailgating, and he is already back. Welcome, sir. Bob's your uncle is in the house. What is going on, Bob? Someone really Simeon guy, I don't know who that is in the chat. So yeah, we are talking the finale, the final volume of Rachel Rising, with its issues 37 through, where's the last issue number? 42. So the final 5 issues of Terry Moore's Rachel Rising. Before I give my thought, I want to hear, and really, I know you love this series. What did you think of the finale here on the reread?
It was as uniformly good and fun for me as the previous 36 issues. I will admit the ending is kind of Deus Ex Machina, anticlimactic, to say the very least, but I still dug it. And I'm really intrigued. I want to see what happens with Jet and, God, I can't think of his name. I can't believe it. Yeah. I'd like to see their continuing romance develop. It was like the one really good thing that came out of all this, wasn't it?
This is true. It is definitely the one good thing that came out of this. All right. So I take that as you think he stuck the landing here for the most part.
I wouldn't go that far, but it wasn't. I've seen worse.
You've seen worse? Oh, wait. So you just said that it was equally good to all the parts that came before, and then when I asked,
overall, but this is more. All of his stuff is more journey than ending,
Right.
And if you read, if you ever read Strangers in Paradise,
I've read that. This is my first Terry Moore introduction. So,
well, Strangers in Paradise is like what put him on the map, and probably what most people really think of for him. And that's a complete journey.
Yeah.
It takes turns that I guarantee you he didn't see coming.
Right. I'm fine with the journey over the ending, but this is not Simone Biles sticking a landing. This is I won't call it a face plant, but I was super wait, what? With how this ends multiple times.
I reread it 2 weeks ago, and then I reread it today, and both times I thought, man, you're just not going to be happy with the way.
I am not happy with the way this ends at all. Yeah, no. I get that there's some things. It's clear that, and you've talked about that we have a Zoe follow-up series, and there's other, this is all part of his universe, and we're going to get some of these characters again. So I'm fine with not all the I's being dotted, T's being crossed. I'm not fine with how we get to the ending, and the ending itself doesn't work for me. So, but let's get there. We'll talk through it as to why. The things that I have an issue with here as we go through this. So we get a little bit of Rachel monologuing here at the start of this volume, as we see kind of Lilith making her preps for trying to figure out a way to deal with that's not the right name. The name I'm thinking of is not the right name for our big bad. What is his name? Malice. Yes. I was like Malekith. I'm like, no, that's like the Thor villain. I was like, that's not right. We see her making preps. Rachel talking it through. Meanwhile, like, I guess we see the guy that was like the guy burning the body and like goes to kill himself. I don't remember. Am I just forgetting who that is?
No, I'm assuming it's either an example of one of Milous's children, because remember that's what
that's what Rachel's talking about. Okay, because she's talking about that, like some of his children, like finding the rest of his children that are out there, and some of them just go mad, and like, okay, that makes more sense. So, because I was like, that guy was like, wait, where is he coming from? Here's where we get into the first part of this. I don't like. Mainly because of how it ultimately ends here, is we see the rich guy who the dead little girl could see, like the other dead people in his house or whatever, or the little girl could see that Rachel took him to the rich guy's house. The little girl took Rachel to the rich guy's house, and he saw Rachel at the fence and like freaked out. And he comes home, so we're thinking, okay, here's Rachel's killer, right? Like he sets this all up because he freaked out when he saw Rachel and everything else. So we see him return to town. Meanwhile, we still get more and more of Lilith, like burning this guy's stuff. She's taking over these people's house that she killed.
Just ruthless Lilith, man.
And then Lilith and like the neighbor comes over and it's like and she's like, Lord have mercy, you're the devil. She's like, nope, I just slept with him. And she's like, and she just kills the neighbor. And like, I don't know. It's just like Lilith is like, if you thought Lilith had turned over a new leaf, she had not.
Well, it's like Rachel says to her later, you should have more respect for human life. I would if they would.
Well, yeah. I mean, so we get all this in this first issue. I feel like this first issue, like when you're wrapping this up, I don't feel like anything other than a little bit of Rachel's monologue here. Nothing really happens. And why do they keep texting me whenever I go live? I swear. Last couple nights, my family just instantly starts sending text messages the moment I hit the live button.
I remember last night.
Yeah, so they're at it again. So yeah, I feel like issue 37. I don't know. I feel like it's a very slow, like, and I realize he's a lot of the conversations and a lot of the, like you said, the journey rather than the destination with Terry Moore. And I like a little bit of Rachel's monologue, but boy, I feel like this is just super. When you're almost at the end of the series, it feels like a little light. What did you think? What do you think of this issue?
I think that he wasn't quite sure, and I could be totally wrong. This is just, of course, my impressions. He wasn't sure how many more issues he had to go, you know? I think the ending just came and kind of bit him on the ass, and he just put it down while he had it in his head.
Yeah. See, that's where I'm coming from. It's like where I'm not happy with this ending is I feel like 37 is drug out and like, and we're just off topic here. And 38 is kind of similar in terms of we spend time with Rachel with random dead people again. And you know, and Rachel, we do see her getting some flashbacks of her killer and what this weird serial killer dude was. That it, you know, we get some flashbacks here of what's going on with Rachel. We get a quick scene with Jet and Earl, and then we spend a bunch of time with those little old lady neighbors that are like remembering who Lilith is. Like, I remember her, you know, and like I feel like for the final volume, these first two issues are just like, and then once we get to he decides to wrap it up, he decides to wrap it up. Like, and this goes on for I don't know. So what did you think about the next issue here, where we do get a little bit, we're getting a little bit closer to Rachel finding her killer here with her aunt. And then we get this random Lilith flashback. What did you think of this?
Loved it. Loved it.
I get like
the old lady for whatever reason. All right, so Lilith. All right, if you see in later when Lilith and Rachel are having their conversation about the past, when Rachel finally realizes or has the memories of her previous lives, and apparently in the mythos of this book, the Judeo-Christian history is the correct one, right?
Right.
You know, so the Earth is civilization on the Earth is somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 years old, roughly.
Yeah.
And Lilith has lived every second of it, and so has Rachel. And they've been, you know, like Lilith said several times, she's ruled most of the world.
Right.
But for some reason, they're bound to this town now because of the bullshit they went through 300 years previous or 200.
Right. Well, and I assume part of that is malice too, and everything else that's going on here.
So I enjoy this little old lady putting together the connections of, hey,
I know who that is.
She's having, and in her story, the same exact thing happened with an old dude when she was a teenager.
Right.
That sees Lilith and is like, you look just like somebody I knew 60 years ago.
Right.
I love that, man. I love that.
So here's the thing. I don't dislike the two issues. What I dislike is the way, like as individual standalone issues, I think they're well written. The characterization is great. I think it's the flashback on Lilith is fun. What I don't like is then how many chapters come after this and how quickly we move through a resolution here. Like
that should have been another 3 or 4 issues, probably.
The way my problem with those, when I was reading them, they were fine. Other than I was like, we're coming to the end. What is happening here? And it was just like, and even like the next issue, even we get into 39, and it's more kind of the same of
more meandering. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I will say, and then we see like this, and again, I guess this is just something that's wrapped up in his other stories. I assume at some point he comes back to Jet and Earl, but we see death like outside of Earl's window when he's with Jet. And there's no resolution there. And again, we don't fully understand still like why Jet is alive and kept coming back.
He did leave a lot of loose ends.
Yes. Which is fine because he comes back and does a Zoe series. Like he does, you don't have to tie up everything, but it was just odd. There were some things he threw in here, and it's like, okay. And then we get the next issue is Johnny and Earl and Rachel, and they're back at the morgue, and Rachel's trying to see visions again, and then she touches like a really old corpse and it doesn't work, and like. But she does like ultimately find Malice, which I guess like on the very last page of this issue, like touching the one corpse, Malice can see her through what she's seeing through the vision. So that finally like starts to progress us to our finale here. But again, I don't dislike the issues in and of themselves. I just don't like the pacing as we approach the end here. Like I feel like there's a lot of like he's continuing to tell the story the way he's been telling it the whole time. And then the way we get to the end, it's like feels super rushed and anticlimactic. You talked about earlier that like because even the next issue we started off and Lilith's got a garden going and they're talking and they're like, well, how are we going to do this? And I don't know. And they're going back and forth. And Zoe gets like what's supposed to be like apparently hentai flowers, or I don't know what the hell it's supposed to be. And like goes on a lunar, you know, she's clearly gets drugged up out of her mind here and goes on a bender. And so Rachel starts telling Lilith about how Malice saw her. But meanwhile, like Zoe's thing goes from like supposed to be this weird thing to like very dark. And she yeah, we spend pages of this final volume on this her in the snow with the deer. Like there's like 2, 4, 6, 8 pages. The whole last half of this issue is her and the deer, which we don't get any resolution to ultimately.
But all right, go back to the previous issue, the last page where she sees Malice.
Where Rachel sees Malice, yeah.
And you can't make out what Malice says to her at last, but then in this issue, and that last page, let me tell you, is chilling to me. I mean, I'm seeing this like on a movie or on a good TV show. That scene has potential to be just absolutely chilling. And let me wax philosophical for a second. I honestly, he did Strangers in Paradise, which was about 2.5 times longer than this.
Right.
And then everything else he's done has been like 8 to 10 issues.
Right.
So he's in this. I would be willing to bet you money he was thinking this was going to last another couple of years, if not a little longer. And for some reason, he decided, nope, I'm reining it in right now because I got another story I want to tell.
And maybe, like, so yeah, we get the long, it's just like, basically the whole 37 through 40 feel like there's like 2 volumes of this left. Like this is a 9-volume story instead of a 7. And then 41 and 42 are like, nah, I'm done. And it's like, so is there anything else from this issue you want to talk about here? I mean, obviously the scene where Rachel we see what Malice is, that he's coming for Zoe, then he's coming for her. And Zoe's weird vision quest here and the thing with the deer. And ultimately she, like, and I guess this is him, like, through the vision getting to her or something, but she basically almost kills herself or tries to kill herself.
Well, I think
go ahead.
That I was about to say that might have been an important, like, spiritual moment for Zoe, but then having read Serial, nah, not so much.
So
but it was important for Rachel and Lilith. You see,
I think it is important for Rachel and Lilith.
You see the way Lilith jumped off that porch?
Well, yeah, when they see Death going for her, and they realize what's happening, and the way they go running after her and basically try to save her. And this is where we jump the shark a little bit. So yeah, they get to Zoe before Death does. Rachel does her thing to try to save her and heal her and bring her back. Meanwhile, we see like Lilith pick up Jack, and like, and then Lilith is like, I gotta go do something or whatever, and basically goes off on her own to finds Malice. And we see all the crows and everything, and the two of them, basically Malice is trying to like really shooting a gun at Lilith. I realize he's somewhat confined to like a human body at the moment, but really,
and this whole issue is showing us just how powerful Lilith is. So if we didn't already know.
Yeah, so I'm super curious here. Has he done more with Lilith yet or not?
I was just trying. All right, there's been a series, and 10 years, I think was the name of it, but I could be wrong, where he's got basically every character. He's got them from
all his different series.
Yeah, and Zoe and Rachel are in it, but I can't remember if Lilith makes an appearance or not. I don't think so, but I've only read it once. I need to reread it. I don't think we've seen Lilith since, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so she basically hunts Malice in this human that he's currently in, and basically, kills his human form. And he's like, you can't kill me with witchcraft. And she's like, yeah, I just always wanted to do this. So she kills him in his human form and forces him out of the thing where she could see him, but other people couldn't, before he can basically go into somebody else. And she just kills him with Jack. How did she,
Well, I don't know that she killed him. She wounded the hell out of him with that sword, and then God took care of it with a lightning bolt and a chasm straight to hell.
Right.
But hang on, back up to that scene where she's walking through the yards. What a great illusion that is. All the crows form around her. He shoots them. She's not there anymore. She pops up behind him and literally Hulk claps him a quarter of a mile away.
Yeah.
That's badass.
Yeah, he goes skipping across the reservoir.
And he never loses character. He's still talking shit like he's got the upper hand.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because he doesn't think he really has any way to kill him. Here's my problem with that it's just as easy that she just mortally wounds him with Jack. Like, the sword has been around forever. Like, she's seen the sword. She knows what the sword is. She knows Zoe's got it. We've spent all these issues talking about how do you kill something that's unkillable, and let's send him into space, and let's do all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, oh wait, I just have to stab him. It's like,
well, but God put the finishing touches on it. Maybe.
Well, I know, but like all she had to do.
But maybe just stabbing him wouldn't have worked. Is what I'm saying.
Well, not stabbing him with like a normal blade, but like she knew this blade existed. Like, I don't know. The whole thing just seems.
But she's ambivalent. She was trying to bring about the ruin of that little town and then the whole world.
Right.
Remember, back in the very beginning? And now she's trying to save it. She might be like 8,000 years old and a twisted, powerful being, but she's also not
very fickle, and yeah.
There's still a human being in the core there somewhere that does stuff for no discernible reason. But I mean, I understand your frustration, and those are very logical points you're making. But people aren't logical all the time.
I know, and I guess this probably wouldn't bother me nearly as much if it wasn't for the next issue. But it just seems so like this seems super anticlimactic. It was like, oh, she just has to like throw the blade at him and she wins. And I don't know, with all they went through and all this drama and Malice being basically indestructible, and then it just comes across as a little too easy. So we jump ahead and basically spend the last issue Rachel wondering, all right, are we truly alive? Are we, does this mean now that we can die? Like that now that Lilith has kind of righted the wrong here, if that hasn't gained them both forgiveness, if the next time they die, they're dead. And so she gets Lilith to actually tell her who killed her. And it's some rando that's not set up at all. It has nothing to do with the guy that freaked out when he saw her at her fence. Like, why is that guy even in the story? I guess maybe he's like, and why would he freak out about Rachel? And like,
and he can see the little girl, little girl ghost.
Yeah, like
I'm hoping that Terry Moore, we come back to all this. Particularly what we find out on the very last page. I'm hoping, because that hadn't been resolved yet, as far as I know.
The very last page, which is
when Rachel wakes up from being dead yet again.
I don't have that page.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't. This is the last page.
And you got nothing beyond that?
I have nothing beyond that.
All right, the last page I got, if you want to make me big. It's Zoe sitting by her corpse. Rachel wakes up. Zoe says, she's awake. And
Rachel says, damn it. I see.
Yeah, and Zoe says, Malice had 7 children, and Lilith says, you have to help us find them.
Okay, so this is me. All right, so this is the way it's set up for anybody reading home. Is it's this page. You flip, you get the credits. You get black page credits. Blank pages. There it is. I didn't. Like when I flipped through there, I apparently missed that and went all the way to the back.
It does the same thing in the omnibus.
Okay, I didn't realize that's what it was doing. Like I flipped the one page, found more black, and then I don't know if they stuck together, but then I went all the way to the back. So,
and the more I think about it, I think what Zoe's telling her is just Zoe yanking her chain, because you would think that would have a little more urgency, and as far as I know, they haven't addressed that.
Yeah,
so it might just be Zoe, messing with her.
Okay, so yeah, she's sitting there, Zoe's sitting there, she's awake, and it's like, Malice had 7 children, and Lilith says you have to help us find them. And she's slurping on a juice box, and Rachel's like, damn it. Okay, that actually makes it better for me.
But maybe that is true, and I sure hope we get to see it.
Well, that would be cool, but it does not. It makes it better for me because I was pissed off. Because, yeah, we see Death waiting for her, like when she comes out. But maybe Death was just going inside to the people inside.
Rachel wants to die.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe Death is probably just headed inside the house. But I was pissed. I was pissed because, A, it was a rando, and B, he killed her. She didn't really even get her revenge. I mean, she killed him too, but I was not at all happy with the way that was ending. So this page does redeem some of that. I'm still frustrated that it was a rando, but
when she's holding the hammer to his head, that's a great little panel where it shows her flip it around and then stick it in his mouth.
Yeah.
But he sure left enough loose ends that we could have a pretty good story just with Rachel still in her hometown,
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, there's a ton of loose ends. I mean, there's a ton of things that he could still do, but yeah, where she flips it around and puts it in his mouth, like
that little scene that just shows it rotating, that one
Yeah.
panel, I love it.
yeah. But yeah, I was super pissed that he, for lack of a better thing, that he had managed to finish the job. And I was like, are you kidding me? So that does make me feel better about it. I'm still a little frustrated by the pacing of the last two issues. Like, I feel like all of that is a little bit rushed. But I do have to rethink my thoughts on this a little bit with this page that I missed. That she's not like gone. So here's a question. Serial, does it come before this or after this?
After this.
Okay.
It's like Zoe on her own.
Oh, so we don't even see Rachel with her.
No.
Okay. Interesting. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff that could still happen in this, like, to wrap this up. So he left a lot of loose threads, which is fine. Like, again, I didn't necessarily bother, the loose threads didn't bother me so much, other than we set up, unless he's a part of the Serial series, we set up the serial killer that supposedly recognized Rachel from the photos from his home, came back, and then he was nothing. I was like, why did we set him up? Like, so maybe, hopefully he shows up somewhere else so we can get resolution to that.
Well, it's like, at some point, Lila says, is there anyone in this town who hasn't murdered someone?
Yeah.
No,
apparently not.
And we still got her Polynesian buddy. I can't think of his name. Remember last we saw him, he was sitting on the porch with a head in a box.
Yeah.
This is a great little town, man.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff that's still floating out there. And I think that was why I was like, the final two issues felt super rushed. I thought the final confrontation with Malice felt super rushed. And the resolution felt a little hollow because it was just so easy. Which I guess maybe sometimes, they overthink things. And then the rando, that still annoys me, the rando thing, because I just don't feel like it was set up well enough to be this guy. Like, I don't feel like there's no clues. It's just a rando. And, like, we barely even seen him before.
I think he was mentioned, or even was it? I don't remember. And we
find out because I forget what it is, because she talks about him, like, because he ends up on disability. Yeah, he's the one that was like Malice beat up because he found him duffing the wife of the guy he possessed in the hotel.
Okay.
Yeah. So Malice beat him up, and that's the only thing we had with him before. And yeah. All right. So final thoughts. Series as a whole. I did really enjoy it. Like, despite my frustration with the way this wrapped up, and although it is lightened some with you revealing the last page that I apparently missed. As a whole, Terry Moore's art is fantastic.
Agreed.
Like, he draws really, his people there's a little, like, sometimes the attractive women are fairly close together. Don't get me wrong. But for the most part, you could tell people apart fairly easily. But he does it with fairly simple lines, like, it's not overly complex art. It's fairly simple. Obviously his ladies are super attractive if you see what he sells, and people like him because if you see what he sold on his sketches, yeah, it was pretty standard, oh, here's super attractive women. But art's fantastic. His dialogue is top notch. Overall plot and storyline of this, I think, leaves a little bit to be desired. It's a little uneven. There's a little inconsistency in some stuff. obviously I felt like the finish felt super rushed in terms of pacing. The book as a whole feels very borderline slow in its pacing. And then these last 2 issues are like, yep, I'm done. And so it's not an all-time favorite for me, but it is really good. I did really enjoy it. I'm glad I read it. But yeah, that it just there's a little inconsistency to me in terms of why Lilith. There's no real explanation why Lilith's mission goes from I'm going to destroy this town to I'm going to destroy Malice and like not worry about this town. And there's just some stuff there that's not fully fleshed out. I guess one trip to hell after she comes back and she's like, no, now it's Malice. But that's just me. What about you? I know you love this story, but strengths, weaknesses, what do you think about the whole thing now that you've done a reread?
The weaknesses you've gone over are, I would agree with 100%, except pacing has never been, it's not something I look at as a detriment. It's one of the things I like. But out of all his works, this is my favorite.
Okay.
For whatever reason, and I like them all. And most people would tell you that Strangers in Paradise is his, masterpiece.
Right.
But for some reason, I fell in love with Rachel immediately. I mean, the character Rachel. And then Zoe is just the perfect cherry on top of the world. I hope this cat, I hope I live another 20 years and so does he. And I hope we get to see a series about Zoe as a young lady, in her 20s and what she's doing.
Yeah. I will say, and that's the one thing I didn't, like I talked about dialogue, but his characters are outstanding. Like Rachel is fully fleshed out. Zoe is fully fleshed out. Lilith, although there's some inconsistency in her motivation, is like he gives you enough to really understand who Lilith is and how she's, even if she's inconsistent, part of it's because she's thousands of years old and remembers all of it and is a little crazy.
Exactly.
Jet and Aunt Johnny and Earl are a really strong side cast. And he even spends a little time of all the victims, for the most part, of the random other people we meet in town. There's a lot of people that are pretty well like you get more, they're more than just caricatures,
like Soul Patch Detective.
Yeah, although he just disappears in the middle of the story. Like, see, that's one of the plot things. It's like, why did we spend so much time with that detective? Not that we spent a ton, but of him trying to figure out what was going on, and then he just disappears from the story. And without any kind of resolution to that. And so there's just some things, like, it's fine to leave open threads, but boy, there's a lot of them. And yeah. And I think the pacing, for the most part, like I said, the pacing throughout the whole series is borderline slow, but he makes it work because of how well he does the dialogue and the conversations and everything else. It's just so jarring when in the last 2 issues, like, the pacing goes from like 5 to 500. And it's just like, okay, that's for me. Any other final thoughts on this volume, the series as a whole, before we get out of here?
I would highly encourage everyone to just grab any one of his collections and start reading. Yeah. And I can just about guarantee you'll go buy more stuff by him.
So, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to coming back, reading some of his stuff. Sounds like maybe Strangers is something I need to get to. I know Alec has been like, it's like, you're reading Rachel before you read Strangers? So I was like, oh, I really sent me Rachel. So yeah, we're definitely need to get more, and obviously Zoe would always be good. So yeah, it was a success, even if I had some complaints. I did enjoy it overall, more positive than negative. Probably, like, if I was gonna rank it, I'm never very good at ranking stuff, like, because I probably end up being too positive because I don't want people to think I'm negative. But I would say 7.5 out of 10. That seemed like reasonable. What does that give you? That's a 3.25. Yeah. Or 3.75. Yeah. I think that's probably pretty close. 7.5. I don't think it quite makes like an 8.0. Art is like a 10. I mean, the art is just really, really good. But and art and dialogue, characters all would push it higher, but the plot inconsistencies bring it down quite a bit for me, I think. So that's where I'm at. What about you? 10 out of 10? What is this? I know you love it.
I'd give it a solid 8.5.
8.5. I can see that.
I really like the story, and like you said, the art is as good as it gets in this medium for me.
Yeah. All right. Unless you got anything else, I think we are wrapping this up right here. Thanks to Bob for hanging out with us tonight. There's a few other that haven't been super active in chat, but there's several people, or several eyeballs at least. So I appreciate you guys for hanging out. Next week, I believe we're going to be back with more Deadly Class. I think we're going to do Deadly Class 2 weeks in a row. We're going to try to get close to wrapping it up. We're going to do volumes 10 and 11, and then we just have one left. We can't do 3 weeks in a row. And then I don't know what's going to happen after that in terms of the indie show. I don't have a lot like on the books at the moment, so we'll see.
I don't know if this is on your radar, but in like November or December, they're doing a Fear Agent omnibus.
Okay.
It's coming out. It's Rick Remender. It's like a science fiction.
You've been pushing Fear Agent for a long time, so maybe that'll have to be the next one you and I do, and if we can get somebody else, we get somebody else. But maybe you and I.
But it's like each issue ends on a cliffhanger that's even more spine tingling than the one before it, and he pulls it off.
Okay. Well, my next reminder was going to be Black Science because it's sci-fi, and that's really like I love sci-fi stuff, and I was looking.
I haven't read Black Science yet, but I just got a copy in the last couple of months.
Okay. Well, that was something I was going to put on my list, but maybe we'll have to do that Fear Agent and then maybe Black Science or something. We'll see.
Fear Agent is the shit. That's what I'm going to get my old man for Christmas.
There you go. I do know planning to start Middle West very soon. I do have a crew for that. We just haven't scheduled it yet. So that's going to be something else coming up indie show wise. So, all right. With that, I think we're going to get out of here. Thanks, everybody. And we will, catch you next time. Later.